Welcome to the 2020-2021 State of the Schools Address. I'm Tom Burton, proud superintendent of Princeton City Schools. As you will see on this slide, there's so much to celebrate. We have Viking voices, we have our proud mascot, we have a great picture with Dream up above. Nobody would have dreamed that this is the way we would have started this school year. But we still empower. And as you see on this slide, this next one, when you talk about empower, it is about innovating. It's about growing, creating. It takes great leadership to empower and strategy. That's really critical. So it has to take leadership, as I mentioned before, great leadership from above, the Board of Education. As you will see in the back row, Gina Ruffin-Moore, John Simons, and Mary Cleveland. And in the front row, Board of Education Vice President Susan Wider and Board President Dr. Lillian Hawkins. Thank you to them for their great partnership in making sure that we continue to work together. And without their leadership, I can't imagine where we would be right now. Where would we be serving the great communities that we serve? So you see right there, we have several. We are better together, as that picture on the lower right-hand side shows. We are better together. We have 2 cities, 4 villages, 3 counties, and 4 townships, not to mention other municipalities that all come together at Princeton. And we're proud to represent each of the communities. So I gave a spoiler alert earlier. I talked about all these great awards and accolades. Now you see, boy, on this screen, it's almost visual overload. But let's talk about, first and foremost, 2 more of our elementary schools joined the list of being Hall of Fame schools through OESA, which is an elementary school association for administrators that recognize the great work that's been done. So we 5 total in the district. So congratulations to Sharonville Elementary School and Evendale Elementary School. I also mentioned earlier about Viking Voices program. We actually received a regional award, Midwest States Award. It was called the Philo Award. It's a Philo festival, and stay tuned for more information about this great awards program. And we're very pleased and excited to have our students being recognized for the great work that they do behind the scenes. Tricia Roddy, our Director of Communication, for the work that she's done putting together the program. I have a little small piece in that being the host, but it's more about the students and our entire educational community coming together each month, recognizing the voices of Princeton. It's critical. So as we look forward, we continue to have our great mission statement of empowering each student for college, career, and life success. Our mission statement, as you see right here, is a student-centered framework. We are currently working on our strategic plan, updating it, and we'll be releasing that prior to December 2020. We want to make sure that our goals are intact. Our objectives are going to drive us to reach levels previously unknown. So you look at goal 1 being responsibility, 2, performance, that academic piece that we all know, 3, the personalization that drives us each and every day. Safety, remember, we're going to talk deep about safety and security and what we've done for the transition coming back. And lastly, and most importantly, I think is communication. And I would like to say that we have heard all kinds of great information, great feedback about our communication. But I will say we are not perfect. We work hard each and every day to communicate in whatever manner it takes to make sure that we have the communication that's really solid. We know ultimately, when it's said and done, there's 3 pathways that students may choose to enroll into a community college, university, or trade school, a technical school, to join one of the great 6 branches of our U.S. military. Lastly, to become part of the workforce. We work together collaboratively with our business community to make sure that we have enriching opportunities for each and every one of our students, because ultimately, everybody ends up in the workforce. And how that may look or feel may be different for each student, but that's okay. That's the whole personalization. That's what we talk about when we talk about empowering each student for college, career, and life success. So not too long ago, actually right before COVID happened, about a month and a half before COVID happened, we started getting information about what it looks like, what the whole community wants to see a portrait of a graduate to look like, if you will. So students, parents, staff, business community, community at large, alumni took part in this great portrait of a graduate study. So if you look here, we want our students to have a plan for the future. That is critical, a must. The social skills, the ability to build relationships and so forth, and to contribute to society, being culturally competent, to be aware, to be members of a healthy social network, strong habits of the mind with grit and perseverance and flexibility, real world skills, having that, not only that academic experience, but also that work and that transferable skills and being able to build the competencies, it's critical. And lastly, and so critically, equity, to have the integrity and the authenticity and the fairness and the ability to truly understand each other at the highest of all levels. And I just want to remind each and every one of you listening right now that all this entire slide deck will be available at www.princetonschools.net for your viewing later. So if you see right here, there's so many positives that have happened over the course of the year. We awarded 51 honors diplomas. We had 63 students that were recognized as distinguished in social studies. Another 76 students took college credit plus classes and earned close to 900 hours, 877 hours. And the list goes on and on and on. When you look at the National Technical Honor Society graduates, 17, another 63 earned gold cords for the National Honor Society, and 15 National American Sign Language Honor Society graduates. This is amazing. And actually today we were making a film to talk about feeling empowered. What does it mean to be empowered? Changing and saving lives, the Princeton City Schools story. We had a great parent that talked very passionately about the offerings that we have, and he mentioned taking American Sign Language classes for his daughter, recent graduate, how he was so proud that she had the ability to take this class. And this really is the Princeton advantage. And Tanya Westwright will be talking here in a little bit to go more into detail about what that Princeton advantage looks like. And lastly, the last piece on this page, if you look to the right there, over $7.8 million of scholarships were offered to the class of 2020 during one of the most horrific times that we've seen in our country, with the multiple pandemics, the social injustice that we've seen that's permeated our country for centuries. That's a pandemic, but also the COVID pandemic, which has taken so many lives and impacted so many people. But during these pandemics, $7.8 million were offered to our 2020 graduates. So let's talk a little bit about district enrollment. Our current enrollment right now is 6,043. It's down a little bit from previous years. And you're going to see that in the next slide. And we're going to go into this in a little bit greater detail when you look at the remote learners versus gray and scarlet week students. But when you look right here, you see last year we were trending up, and all indications were that we were going to continue to trend up. But COVID happened. And when it did, it changed the way that many of us look at school. It changed the way many of us actually felt the way in school, in-person learning should look, as well as remote learning. Some of our parents have opted to do homeschooling. Others have opted to move out of the district and perhaps go back to a country from which they most recently moved into. So they had some concerns about the way COVID was really taking way too many lives and impacting way too many families. So we've seen a decrease in some of the numbers, and nothing was more hard hit than our preschool numbers. You have to understand that currently, right now, all you can have is 9 students in a preschool classroom. And while there's certain things you could do to the classroom to maybe add a few more, but our numbers are down there. Our numbers are down in kindergarten as well. And when you look at the number of students that are coming in, you have to look at the numbers that just left in the graduating class. So more students left than came back in. But trust me, you will see this number grow throughout the course of this year, and you will see the numbers back up high, more like 6,500, which is where we ended last year in a very short period of time. One of the best things about our school district, you see right now, we have support staff. The very first line that popped up was support staff, and that was very intentional. When you think about making a district run, it takes everybody to do so. But the support staff who does they work so very, very hard, just like our certified staff. But our classified staff, we have 257 FTEs, we call that. But in the world of educational acronym, let me tell you, an FTE means full-time equivalent. 442 full-time certified staff and 39 full-time administrators. Now, there's some of these are kind of ebbing and flowing and moving. If somebody decides to retire, if someone decides to take another opportunity. So some of the numbers move up and down a little bit, but generally speaking, these numbers are static. And as I mentioned before, we work together, we stand together, and that's really so critical. You see right here, this great social media post, and again, the hashtag VikingDiff brand. But we stand together, and that's what we do. We stand together each and every day. We are Vikings, everybody together. And that is critical. That will be a theme that you will hear over and over throughout this address, the State of Schools address. So we could not do anything without the Safe Schools Reopening Plan. Great work that was done throughout the district, great partnerships, and again, Ms. Tanya West Wright is going to introduce herself and then talk more specifically about the great work that was done by our reopening task force. Tanya, thank you.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here and just discuss a lot of the work that we did with our Safe Schools Reopening Plan. There were, as the slide says, 92 individuals, which were made up of parents, teachers, administrators, everyone that we thought needed a voice into how to safely reopen. It took a few meetings this summer, and so I want to thank everyone that contributed to those meetings. They went a little bit longer than expected, and we had our technical glitches because we all had to get better with Zoom, but what we accomplished is incredible. So thank you to all those parents that answered our survey to let us know if they wanted to do remote learning or if they wanted to do Scarlet and Gray Week. We also needed parents to make a commitment. So we were able to answer many questions and really talk about what school will look like. The safety precautions were another huge issue. We wanted to make sure if we're going to open our schools that all students would be safe and have a quality education. So special thanks to everyone that was involved with that, including our Mr. Fricky, our transportation department. They were included in all of these conversations as well. And finally, in order to open safely, we needed to add some additional people. We needed to make sure that we had a school nurse in every building, that we had an administrator that could work with all of our remote learners, and that we had a counselor. We know that COVID has resulted into a lot of trauma for many of our students. And so we want to be sure that we are able to address those needs and make sure that they feel safe in the school building. We also have an outstanding technology coach has joined us a couple days a week to make sure that we are doing everything we need with remote learning to move forward. So it is my honor to talk about the equity team, which is headed by Dr. Mary Phillips, who is our associate superintendent, along with Kurtish Kute from Hamilton County ESC. Equity, as it states, means that ensuring that all students get exactly what they need. There's a difference between equality and equity, and we spent a great deal of time last year in our several sessions talking about that. And it really came to life as we entered the pandemic in the spring and tried to make sure that all of our students had exactly what they needed, whether that be the digital divide, the Wi-Fi access, the food, or whatever type of learning that they needed the most. In addition, we have really worked on developing an equity plan that's going to transition through all parts of our educational background and our educational experience. So we hope that parents, teachers, students will all see some of this work coming through as we continue through this school year. As Mr. Burton said, my role is in curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And this year I've been able to start looking at pre-K through 12. It's a very interesting perspective that you can have looking through that. And this is definitely a memorable year for education. Everything that we thought we knew about education, a lot of those things have changed. But one of the things that have not changed are our incredible students. So we look at the faces of our preschoolers, our kindergartners, all the way to our seniors that are graduating. And we're so thankful for the opportunity to educate them and make sure that they get the best educational experience possible. I really like that quote that was included on the picture about together we can do virtually anything. Our teachers have done an outstanding job of making sure that we met the needs of students. None of us had ever taught in a pandemic before. We didn't know what remote learning meant. We knew one day we were here and the next day they said we cannot come back. And we never made it back, but I can't thank the teachers enough for going forward and making things happen for the kids. We've had many academic highlights. Usually the state of the school comes along with the report card. The state of Ohio releases a certain report card. That report card will look a lot different this year because we weren't able to do state testing, which would not have been appropriate and is still not appropriate for many reasons. However, we were looking at that data and we're always working hard on our literacy and math. Our students have been making great growth in literacy, also in math. We also looked a lot at our gifted students and our advanced placement. This year, we were very excited to begin identifying visual and performing arts at the middle school and the high school, in addition to continuing to offer our advanced placement courses. Next slides are about the academic partnerships. The Princeton Advantage is amazing. Students here have the opportunity to accomplish so many different things. Last year, we had over 130 students participating in the International Baccalaureate program and 397 students participating in the AP course last year. Our goal is to continue to grow those numbers, but we want to make sure that our students, whatever path, maybe that's a STEM path through STEAM, College Credit Plus, we now, this school year, the 2021 school year, we are offering 51 College Credit Plus courses at the high school. I thank those staff members and administration for making that happen. That has been very difficult during this time because we have some students that are taking College Credit Plus through a remote path and others in person, but they are doing everything they can to make it happen. We also have many educational partners. Yesterday, I was invited by Mrs. Heckman, who's running the UC initiative with the National Institute of Health. Our students are participating in that UC program and are going to come up with a research study. The opening day, seeing our students interact with professors and Mrs. Heckman and students from other districts, it really helped me just keep my focus and know what amazing opportunities that we are putting forth for students. In addition to UC, you see all the other universities and businesses that we have interacted with. As Mr. Burton said, we have new beginnings this year. No one had ever experienced the first day of school quite like August 20th. We were all so full of so many emotions. We had some students coming back for in-person and some students coming back fully remote. We also want to thank our staff members and administrators for making those concurrent schedules happen. And those are those students that are taking possibly an IB and AP course. Maybe they're fully remote, but they're actually streaming into the classroom so that they can have all of those opportunities to ensure that no matter what is happening, that we are offering the Princeton Advantage. It is my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Libby Stiles that will talk to you more about remote learning.
Hello, I'm Libby Stiles. I'm the curriculum coordinator for Princeton City Schools, and I oversee remote learning. Just to kind of share a few numbers, we have over 2,300 students that selected the virtual learning option, which is about 41% of our total student population. We have 120 staff members who are assigned to our remote students. The majority of those teachers come from core areas, but we also have several elective teachers, intervention specialists at each grade level, and both EL and Title I support available for our students that are identified. This has allowed us to do a couple of things. First, we were able to create a remote schedule for our middle school that still offers high school credits for classes such as Algebra 1 and Foreign Language. We were also able to create a high school schedule that we were able to honor the majority of student requests that were made this past spring, given the number of teachers that we have dedicated to our remote students. There was a lot that was learned this past spring when we were asked to pivot immediately to remote instruction. One thing that we knew we needed was access for all students. So there was a tremendous amount of work done by our technology department in the district this past summer to make sure that every student not only had a device in hand, but had the access they needed in connection to Wi-Fi so that they could be successful in a remote learning environment. Over 400 mobile hotspots were purchased by the district to make sure that students were connected and had access to instruction each and every day. We also knew that it was important for our teachers to receive proper professional development so they could teach our students and so that everybody could be successful, students and staff. We have two main platforms that we are using this year, which are Google Classroom for students K-12, and also we are using Edgenuity as a resource for all students that are 6-12. We provided professional development to our staff in August, and the staff will also receive ongoing professional development throughout this year to make sure that we are providing high quality instruction in a remote setting. We also have a technology coach, Mallory Kesson, who comes to us from Forward Edge. She's with us 2 days a week to help support us as we provide that professional development to our students. As promised, we are delivering live instruction daily. For our students that are K-5, that instruction occurs Monday through Friday. For our students that are 6-12, that instruction occurs Monday through Thursday. And then we also have opportunities on Friday for small group instruction for those students who need targeted remediation. We want to make sure that we are providing remediation and enrichment for all students who are in our remote setting. For that reason, we have time carved out each week for those opportunities to happen so that all of our students' needs are being met. Our students' overall well-being is a top priority for Princeton, so we are making sure that we are embedding social and emotional learning in our daily instruction, and we are also making sure that we are including weekly counselor check-ins for our students. At the elementary and the middle school level, our counselors provide support on how to manage time effectively in a remote learning environment, calming strategies for students who tend to feel anxious or get upset throughout the day, and they run small group sessions for students who need additional guidance. At our high school, we also have opportunities for our students to receive information relevant to high school, such as credit checks, transcripts, college and career development, and the college application process. Our counselors invite those students to attend those sessions so they are receiving the same information as those students who are in person. Our counselors also provide support to individual students as needed. And lastly, we want to make sure that we are providing opportunities for our teachers to share best practices as we continue to learn more and more about what makes students successful and makes the staff successful in a remote environment. We have weekly meetings facilitated by district administration so those teachers can share those best practices, as well as brainstorm ideas for solutions that they might need for down the road. Next, you're going to hear from Tom Burton to hear more about our social and emotional connection.
Thank you, Libby. I want everybody right now just to kind of take a deep breath. The number one concern that we had the second that we found out March 12, 2020, that we would be no longer in school the way that we normally would be. In fact, I think the governor made mention that it was going to be a spring break, if you will, an extended spring break. And he quickly corrected himself because he knew that this was not a break like we ever knew. The number one concern that we had is what are we going to do? How are we going to meet the most basic of all needs, the social emotional needs of each of our students? You know, it certainly takes a village. We could not have done it without the great support of community at large. So many community organizations stepped up and they were with us from the very beginning to the very, very end. And there's so many that I could talk about, but we certainly don't have enough time to do so. So the social emotional connections are absolutely critical. You'll hear later about a parent learning series that we had in this week. We had a great program and many people spoke, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But we know that students are connected when they feel and when they know that the adults in their life care about them. And that's why it's critical, as Libby just mentioned, about the connections and the live lessons and the connecting, taking the time to have these, again, the wonderful opportunities to develop these relationships. We know students feel connected when they have a supportive peer group, that they're engaged in pro-social activities, and when they view school work as meaningful. And most importantly, they see school as a welcoming place. So again, student wellness checks we do, they're conducted by counselors and teachers, in-person, remote. There are support staffs calling. I talked to Ron Ballmer earlier today, and he talked about utilization of his staff to make sure that students that may need additional help or support, that they do feel connected and they do have that authenticity of connectedness. Also, we have this great collaboration with so many of our diverse mental health partners, and they focus on both individual and group therapy. They have day treatment programs, telehealth sessions, and the list goes on, bilingual therapy sessions and services. The point is really quite simple at Princeton. The Princeton Advantage transcends all areas of education. It's not just about the wonderful academic program we have here. It's sometimes we need a little bit more. And that little bit more turns into some great partners that we have. And if you look at this next slide, when you look in the bottom left, there's so many great ones, but I'm going to talk about Terrace Metrics right now. Dr. Gilman was one of the participants, one of our panelists, when he talked about mental health and school life balance. So as many of you are listening right now, you know the school life balance is absolutely critical, now more so than ever. The sense of perhaps isolation may hit some of our students, and in fact, even some of our staff that may be remote, that they don't have that daily interaction. So parents, please make sure you're taking special care and attention to your remote learners that are at home, and even those learners that choose the at-home learning that happens on a scarlet or gray week. Pay careful attention to that, and if you need any help and support, please let us know. We have unbelievable partners you see right here on the screen, on top of the wonderful counselors, psychologists that we have currently working for Princeton each and every day. So now we're going to talk about what are we doing with a special population, our special education, our English learners. And Teresa Warren is going to provide very detailed information about the great work that's been done. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. I'm Teresa Warren, the Director of Special Education and English Learner Programs. While last year certainly brought some unexpected challenges, we do have a lot of celebrations to remember. The district was awarded a College and Career Readiness Innovative Strategies grant last year for $175,000, and it's focused around parent engagement and transition services. We know that when parents are involved and better educated about the options for their students, that student outcomes increase. So the grant is focused around parent education and training, opportunities for transition services for our students, and connecting those families to resources that will help them throughout their life. For our English learners, we have increased targeted supports academically, socially, emotionally, and around job readiness skills, and those efforts are showing an impact. Our graduation rate has increased over 7% in the last 3 years for that group. And the district has met growth goals that are set by the state for the last 3 years, which is when they started measuring that for EL students. And you can see there are a handful of elementary buildings that also met that. For special education, the reopening had a lot of different layers. When you're talking about providing specialized instruction and supports for very unique learners, we felt we needed additional collaboration with the Springdale and Hamilton County Health Departments to get their guidance on additional recommendations. Those recommendations turned out to be additional personalized protective equipment, and some very specific protocols for health and safety for our students. Communication was also key. The district has met with each family with a student with a disability to develop a distance learning plan that really looks at their IEP and determines what services we need to prioritize and any accommodations that need to happen while they're in school to make them safe and to continue their learning. And that ongoing collaboration with families is going to be key as we move through the rest of the school year. So our focus for the 2020-2021 school year is going to be to increase that parent engagement and support and to keep that going. That's going to include innovative and creative ways to provide supports and services to students with very unique and special learning needs. We're going to have to be partners to figure out how to best support them. Another focus is really equity of access and supports for our most vulnerable learners to make sure they have what they need in order to access their academics and to continue to show academic growth. Transition services and activities. This may look a little different this year. Fortunately, the Innovative Strategies grant that we received allowed us to purchase something called the Practical Assessment Exploration System. And it's a hands-on program that allows our students to experience transition activities and different careers, even if we may not be able to spend as much time in the community because of COVID. And there are areas all the way from customer service, construction, business, computer technology. So our students will still have access to all those really important transition activities before they leave us. And then finally, Inclusive Schools Week. We have been celebrating that in Princeton. This will be the third year. It originated with special education, with the Inclusive Schools Network, which is a countrywide movement. Here at Princeton, we have taken that one step further and include all of our wonderfully diverse learners here. We do inclusion well every day, and this is just an opportunity for us to share what we do each and every day with the country. So we are excited about that. And the theme for this year is the time for inclusion is now. Mr. Burton is going to come back and talk about safety and security.
Thank you, Teresa. And if I could just add something, I want everybody to think about how difficult scheduling is in general when you think about schedules for an elementary school. Then when you look at some complexity of scheduling at a middle school, it's certainly enhanced. At the high school with the Princeton advantage and all these singletons, which means that one course offered one time during the course of a day, the complexity of scheduling gets that much more. Now, what I want you to think about, you have one elementary school schedule, you have one middle school schedule, you have one high school schedule. What would you do if you had over 850 schedules that you had to make? That's what our special education staff has worked so very hard through the course of this entire pandemic, in each year actually. When you think about that, it's heavy, heavy lifting. So to Teresa and her wonderful staff, special thanks. Special thanks also go out to the great work that's been done remote learning, so Libby Stiles. It continues with Tanya West-Wright, who's done a tremendous job in taking over a brand new role when it comes to pre-K-12 curriculum for the entire district. And of course, where the heck would I be without the great Associate Superintendent, Dr. Mary Phillips, who oversees all of those entities. Now, when you think about transitioning back to school, certainly everyone was concerned. In fact, today we heard from each student that we interviewed on this video that we're filming. Every single student had anxiety coming back, yet every single student today said that they felt safe and secure. That would not have happened without the great work of Mr. John Fricke. I actually was giving him more education because of the great work that he does. So Mr. Fricke and Todd Kutel, who reports to Mr. Fricke, Gene Sparks in food service, and again, all the great support. And this Monday, we're going to be recognizing the great work that was done by our entire maintenance staff, with the leadership of Todd Kutel, with the leadership of John Fricke, our Director of Operations. It really has been amazing. But when you think about what some of the concerns were, you heard this all throughout the news, some of the concerns about these air droplets and what does that look like and how often does the air turn over. So at Princeton, we have high capacity filters. We've increased our air exchange well beyond CDC guidelines. Also, we had PPE, personal protective equipment. We have thousands and thousands of items to make sure that we're protecting our staff, that we're cleaning, that we're sanitizing. We have the sanitizing stations. And on the very first day at 6:35, when I pulled up and I met Trisha Roddy, our great director of communication, we saw students out there social distancing themselves, getting ready to come to school. The only log jam that we had were kids waiting to sanitize their hands. Our great administrators were in the buildings making sure that everything was safe and secure. That could not happen without great leadership that takes place all throughout this district. So you see here, great students, masked up. They've done a great job. You see what it kind of looks like in some of the classrooms with X's. Very, very deliberate, intentional work done to have students feel comfortable. And in every one of our classrooms, minimum of 6 feet apart, the students sit, with only the exception of a couple classrooms. And in those classrooms, we have protective barriers, plexiglass in between those, but it's so few and far between. It really, being able to come back with a hybrid schedule, being intentional and deliberate in action, has allowed us to help people feel safe. Many staff members on a great walk that myself and Dr. Mary Phillips, we completed last week and then earlier this week, we heard so many great compliments about how people feel safe and secure. Being able to make sure that we provide this environment at the highest of all levels is really critical. You know, earlier I talked about taking care of the most basic of all needs. Look at some of these numbers, food distributions. We have over 170,000 now. I know we have over 170,000 now total meals that were distributed. Our community partners, they're over 60,000 now. These numbers change so regularly, it's unbelievable. So when you look at the grab and go, and now I'm proud to announce that we're actually extending food delivery that will be happening for remote learners as well. It is not just about those students that are in front of us. Those students that chose remote learning and the families that chose that, you're Princeton. You are Vikings, and we're going to take care of food distribution. So stay tuned all over social media, all calls on what's going to happen. We're very excited to be able to provide this for each and every student. So some of it is a little kind of spoiler alert. Some of this will be grab and go, drive by. So some of that will be at Viking Village. Some of it will be at your neighborhood elementary school. So you can come up there and get food. If you need food, we're going to try to do every single thing we can to take care of it that day. So again, the great business partners, great community partners. You see La Rosa's Pizza, who donated so many pizzas to help feed our students over the course of the summer. During the pandemic, Rockefeller's Pizza as well did a great job. They continue to give and give like La Rosa's. You look at great partnerships. Carmen Daniels, a proud graduate of Princeton City Schools, with all the great work that she's done with Valley Boosters and the many other people that help her. And how could I even begin to start talking about the great support of our community without mentioning, lastly, but certainly thinking about the great partnership that we have with St. Monica's Center and the great work that's done with Pastor Mike Pearl. And the list goes on and on and on when it comes to, again, the partnerships and what's been happening in our religious community. Our faith-based community has stepped up so much, but certainly Pastor Pearl providing great food distribution over and over again, and the great work that he's done. I'm going to ask Christopher Lockhart, Chris Lockhart, our Director of Technology, to come up, and he's going to talk about the great work that we've done with technology.
As Tom has introduced me, I'm Chris Lockhart, the Director of Technology. We've been focused on devices and connectivity in my department. We've distributed over 3,600 Chromebooks and we've distributed over 300 hotspots. As was mentioned earlier, we got 400 additional. So we have enough internet connectivity for each of our students. If you need that connectivity, you can apply on our website at princetonschools.net. And as of right now, all 9th through 12th grades will receive a one-to-one take-home device. And again, this is just some images of the great spring that we had, and then this fall getting devices out. And while the technology department is responsible for it, we had help literally from everyone in the district. We even had some volunteers outside of the district come to make sure that each of our students has that device and that connectivity. And as we start the school year off, we're continuing with working on training and support, not just for our staff in district, but for parents also. We have some resources available. Ask the Tech Pro. You can email that email account, askthetechpro@vikingmail.org if you need assistance. And you can also go and watch some of our tech tip videos. So we're going to continue to we're going to continue to produce videos and produce resources, both for our internal staff and our external staff at large with our parents now who are supporting our remote students. And at this time, I'm going to pass back to Mr. Tom Burton.
Thank you, Chris. I have a very big announcement to make. I'm going to do that right here at the State of the Schools. We received, I know I mentioned this a couple different times, but we received a $100,000 gift/grant from Accelerate Great Schools through a partnership that they have with other companies, which until I get final approval, I'm not going to mention them. I don't want to spoil anything, but Accelerate Great Schools, a great organization, $100,000 for connectivity and Wi-Fi. On top of that, there's been money that was donated through the great work of Susan Wider and the Princeton Closet on top of the great work that she does with food distribution, clothing, whatever, but also connectivity. So, Mrs. Wider, I'm going to make another announcement that we're really excited about. Over $12,000 was donated to the Princeton Closet for what? For connectivity and devices. And there's more coming. We appreciate all the great help and support that people have had to make connectivity, to make equitable access to the most powerful search engines that we have, the internet, and being able to extend learning at the highest of all levels. So thank you to all the people who bought t-shirts, who are going to buy face masks, and who are going to buy these beautiful bracelets that we're going to purchase through the great partnerships with Preferred Jewelers, and we're excited to announce all that. And all of that is going to go to connectivity so that each and every one of our students will be connected. Now, it's my privilege to introduce our district treasurer, Chris Petter, who's going to talk about finance, something that we're all very concerned about. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Tom. I'm Chris Petter, the treasurer for the school district. I have just a couple slides to share with you. And this is probably one of the biggest messages we have for this year, and it did affect us last year also. It's the cut that we received from the state funding. You can see in 18 and 19 where we were used to standing just over $7 million from the state. Last May, we were notified that we would be cut $1.4 million for that current year. That's really interesting since we had 2 months of payments left and our total didn't come anywhere near 1.4 million. So we had to cut a check before we closed our fiscal year to send money back to the state. Now this year, we also are having another 1.4 million cut, as you can see, but we can cover that over the 24 payments we received this year. We're forecasting and projecting that next year we're going to be positive, things are going to get better, and we're going to go back to the regular funding we have received from the state. Another program I want to talk about a little bit that could impact our revenue that we need to watch closely this year is the voucher program. Our state legislators are looking into that again this year. Last year they voted to freeze that voucher program. We would have been impacted greatly this year if they had not frozen. So we are going to be working very closely with our legislators to either continue that freeze this year or hopefully make changes that aren't so impactful to our bottom line. The other thing I want to say is we do have some good news on the revenue front. We do have to thank our taxpayers for their wonderful support in November of 2018. That does bring over $6 million in additional revenue to the district. We'll see that full collection this fiscal year and moving forward in the remainder of the years. Now on the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about expenses that we're seeing from COVID. So these are expenses that we did not plan for until the pandemic hit last year, and we have started. These are expenses we've seen already this year. These are checks out the door, and you can see the different areas. Right now, salary and benefits is low, under 10,000. We expect to see costs in these areas. This is for training we did this summer, bringing people in to learn about remote instruction. We do expect that we will see some costs in salary and benefits because of the federal FMLA, additional benefit people can receive because of impact from COVID. We have increases in purchase services. These are many different areas. Some of it has to do with Wi-Fi services, probably the biggest chunk. We also have a lot in some cleaning services that we're seeing. We do expect this to possibly grow as we might have people out on additional leaves for substitutes. That would be in this category. And supplies, you can see, is the big one. This is where we're buying Chromebooks. This is where we're purchasing sanitization supplies. This is where we're buying all kinds of PPE. So that is right now the big expense. Equipment is, it's not the technology. This is more larger equipment purchases. These have been some of the cleaning machines. So that's what we're seeing right now. We do have an additional almost, 600,000 in purchase orders. So we know those expenses are coming down the way. I report this to the board every month, so you can track that on our board docs and see what these costs are doing to our budget. And in October and November, we'll be deep diving into forecasting, so you can learn a lot of really interesting details about school finance. So I hope everyone comes and joins our work session meeting on the second meeting in October. And then on the first meeting in November, the board will be asked to approve the 5-year forecast so we can submit it to the state. Next slide is talking a little bit about grants. These are some grants that we have received so far this year. Last year was a fantastic year. Michelle Kokar really joined our team last year and brought on some additional grant funds. Tom Burton is going to talk about the details of these.
Thank you so much, Chris. And I know Chris had made mention the great support and past that levy last year, the fall of 2019 was absolutely critical in making sure that we continue to work together. As I made mention earlier, it does take a village and everybody coming together and supporting our schools. It's critical for the future, as you well know. But one of the things I really wanted to hit very hard on is that, and I made a promise to the Board of Education. I also made a promise to multiple people that I spoke to when we were trying to pass a levy last year. I said, this is not just about coming to the community every time we need money. We have to go out, we have to look for alternative revenue streams. I made mention not too long ago about the $100,000 gift/grant that we received from a great partner that we have, and we continue to work throughout that, all the great work, again, the Princeton Closet, and then being able to come up with additional money to be able to help our students. But the biggest way that we could do it is continue to look for grants. Last year, we raised almost $1 million. We didn't even have forecasts. We didn't have any of that money set aside. Now, these are not guaranteed grants. This is money that we went after to try to get so close to $1 million. We're going to continue to do that this year. Dr. Michelle Kokar knows that the goal is over $1 million every single year. And so you see already this year, $388,000. Now, some of that, complete transparency, some of that is specifically because of the broadband connectivity grant that Lieutenant Governor Husted really pushed through, which was great. Others was with this great foundation that we work with, $60,000 a year. So when you look at this money, we're almost halfway there, but we're going to continue to search and do everything that we can. For additional revenue, that's really critical. You know, we have a very robust business community partnership program with over 450 business community partners. We are thrilled to be able to have that. Thrilled to be able to have our great business partnership breakfast. You see on the lower right, we would love to come back together. This was last year. Look at how many people were there, authentically engaged. We have students helping business partners fill out their profiles through a great partnership that we have to have business community leaders and business community have their own profile to be able to connect the jobs that they have with our students. We've placed over 80 students last year alone that got hired. This year, I know we're going to be over 100 to start. And over the next 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to announce some big, robust programs with Kroger, programs with many other entities, Procter & Gamble, and so many more. We'll continue to work with Gold Medal and Gorilla Glue and Jurgensen's, and the list goes on and on. This business partnership program, if you're a business leader and you want authentic, I was going to say authenticity, but authentic communication and connection with a school that is ready to help our students have great work ethic and get to the highest of all levels, please contact us and we'll make sure that we have that connectivity. Additionally, when you look at some of the parent educational community series that we have, the community educational series, as I made mention earlier this week, we have the mental wellness and school life balance, which is awesome. We kicked the year off August 11th with equity, equality, and inclusion, but we had a beautiful, robust conversation about race and racism as well. And we have to continue to allow voices to be heard, and we will do that, and Princeton will be leading the way with that. We know that our world is beautiful, it is diverse, and so is Princeton. And we're going to make sure that our students feel comfortable, our staff feels comfortable to express voice, and we're going to do that. Far too often that we've had voice that's been repressed, and we're not going to have that at Princeton. And I'm very excited, and I know I keep saying excited, but I am thrilled to be the superintendent of a district that embraces our entire educational community, embrace the fact that difference of thought is valued, that we need to make sure that we allow people to express opinions, to be able to provide voice, authentic voice, and we're going to continue to do that. So August 11th, led by Ms. Catrice Kate, and again, Ms. West Wright talked specifically about her and the great work that she's done with the equity team. Our very next program, which is October 13th, which actually comes at a perfect time. It's just 1 week after the end of the first quarter. Anxiety in children and teens with a focus on COVID. Who knows how it's going to be? Many people have asked, okay, Tom, you've been in school now 3 weeks, starting your 4th. When are you going to make a determination what's going to happen after the first 9 weeks? Because remember, the hybrid model is only the first 9 weeks. I will tell you, within 3 weeks, that determination will be made. But for us to move hastily is something we haven't done. So why would we do that now? We're going to collect data. We're going to make sure that we continue to collaborate with City of Springdale. And I have to tell you, we have great communications with them. The great health commissioner there, we're really, again, blessed to be able to have that opportunity there. Also with Hamilton County, with the State Department of Education, with the governor's office, we've had great collaboration, and I'm proud to say that I'm on many individual calls with the governor and some other superintendents, looking at a variety of different options to be able to bring more of our students back. So stay tuned for more information on that one. But again, the connectivity with our community is critical, and we will continue to do that. Continue to have these great, robust educational programming. I mentioned earlier about the work ethic speaker series. We're going to continue to do that. It will be virtual for the first couple, but we hope that we're going to be able to bring our students all back with our business community. So if you're a business community leader out there and you want to be engaged, please make sure you reach out to us, and I'm going to give you contact information here in a little bit. And again, you know, we talked about great business partners. These are just some of our great business partners. You see up there, Jake Sweeney Automotive, a tremendous business partner. We've done so much with Forward Edge, who's really helped us, especially with remote learning, at-home learning, and to provide great professional development for our staff. Mercy Health continues to be a huge supporter in what they've been able to do and help us throughout this entire pandemic, but also provide great medical assistance and the work that they've done for our athletes, but also really being a voice to help us with wellness overall. First Student, our great transportation provider, and again, the lists go on and on and on. And you see down there, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, and Kroger, great, beautiful Fortune 500 companies that have done so much in the community, but we're excited to add some other big companies on this list this year. But again, it's been wonderful, wonderful support, and we could not do it without our business partners. So as promised, I told you I was going to give you contact information, but first, get out your phones and make sure you follow us on Twitter at VikingDiff, at PCSD, at Vike Nation. Stay connected the best that you can on Facebook, on Instagram, at VikingDiff1, at PCSD Viking, and again, at Vike Nation. You can also go to YouTube, which I think right now, each and every one of you, I'm going to pause. Oh, now 3 or 4 of you are not doing this. So you have to make sure each and every one of you, make sure you go to YouTube and subscribe to Princeton Vikings. There are already so many videos on there. By the end of this year, there'll be hundreds of videos on there, which will help each and every one of you. It will also tell the Princeton story, and that's what we want to make sure that we do, empowering each student for college, career, and life success. And then for additional questions, more information, go to our website, www.princetonschools.net. And also, I made mention earlier about anybody that would like to be more involved, actively engaged, please make sure you reach out to our wonderful Director of Communications, Tricia Roddy at troddy@vikingmail.org. Also, our address for anybody that may want some additional information or send some information, if you do, to Princeton Administrative Center in care of Tom Burton, B-U-R-T-O-N. You could do so at 3900 Cottingham Drive, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45241. And just to let you know, about this time each and every year, you will have received a quality profile. As Ms. Tanya West-Wright mentioned earlier, our state report card is going to look and feel a little bit different this year. In fact, not a little bit, probably a lot different. So you're going to receive those, but our quality profile is going to come out a little bit later, and we have more indicators to be able to share with you. We've been communicating since the very onset of COVID, and we will continue to do that. Actually, we've been communicating consistently since I've been here, and I'm starting my 6th school year. So we will continue to communicate as often as possibly can. So stay tuned for the quality profile. It's going to be released not only in Princeton, but statewide. All the local school districts will have a quality profile, and we've all agreed to release that January 2021. So in closing, I want to say that in a universe filled with ambiguity, this type of certainty happens once and only once, no matter how many lifetimes you live. That's from Bridges of Madison County, a book turned into a movie several years ago. And I say that because in a universe, our universe currently is filled with ambiguity. We do not know what may happen tomorrow or each and every day. But I'm going to leave you with this, that we will be that certainty. We will make sure that we're going to communicate, that we're going to be authentic in the communication. We will make sure that whatever the world, however it happens, regardless of what may happen, we're going to be there each and every day. We will provide the Princeton advantage. We will continue to empower each student for college and career life success. And please make sure if there's anything you need, you reach out to us. And I can hear you already saying it. I know, I see it, I feel it. And as always, go Vikes. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the program. Really excited to have everybody here. We know that there's lots going on. And I think there may be a delay. Mr. Lockhart, are we okay? I'm hoping that everybody can hear me. Okay, so this part of the program, we are going to ask Mrs. Roddy to jump in here and ask any questions that may have been out there in social media land. But I did want to start off with one specific question that people have talked about, and it's all about operations. So when you talk about like the building operations, we do deep cleaning every single night. There's so many aspects of that. And again, I want to thank Mr. Fricky, who's done an amazing job leading his department, but also Mr. Cattell, Ms. Sparks, and new to the operations team, who's done an amazing job doing a lot of work with security, but much bigger than that, Ms. Terrell, who's joined the team this year and has done a great job in operations, really worked with a lot of hands-on, socially distanced, hand-on planning. So Ms. Terrell's done an amazing job, Ms. Sparks, Mr. Cattell, as well as Mr. Fricky. And so just know that there's deep cleaning. We constantly are wiping down the door handles and all that. And just today, myself and Mrs. Roddy, while we were filming, we saw the custodians, right, Mrs. Roddy? We saw them cleaning the door handles, being very diligent in doing so. And we are in and out of the bathrooms doing absolutely everything that we can to make sure that we have the cleanest, safest environment possible. So Mrs. Roddy, any questions for the good of the order?
So we have one question from Mrs. Strout. Who do we contact about issues we are facing with remote learning and if Zoom classes are not taking place?
Okay, so two things. So first and foremost, you would contact Libby Stiles, that's E Stiles. And if we could just put that in the, Libby, if you don't mind putting that right in the text box so everybody can have that email. So E Stiles, STYLES. So we'll make sure that we'll, at vikingmail.org, and you'll be able to get that information for sure. And she'll follow that up. If Zoom meetings are not happening, contact your building principal, and we'll make sure if they're not happening, there could be a connecting issue or perhaps something else that may be driving that. I know that we are doing absolutely everything we can to have that authentic connection each and every day. So thank you so much for that question. Mrs. Roddy, any other questions?
There are no other questions at this time.
Okay, so in that case, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to thank everybody one more time. But before I do that, let me tell you some questions that have just kind of hit my desk recently. And again, all of the questions that we have, we try to collect all of those, put them in our frequently asked questions section on our website to make sure that that's everything, to make sure that we're connecting everybody as much as possible to the information they may need. So I had a parent that called me over the weekend, and they said that their son is not accessing all the resources that have been given to them. So what do I do as a parent to make sure that my son, in this case son, is connected and doing their work? Well, I will tell you that if you're having problems connecting online, that's one thing. But if your son is not doing everything that they should be doing, let's make sure that we please follow through as you normally would as a parent. Let them know that obviously they're still in school. This is not like taking vacation from school. Make sure that they're following through, doing all their work. And if they're really struggling and they need help, please reach out to the school. We're here still to serve. If they're remote learning and they're really struggling, or they're struggling on their week at home, doing at-home learning, and they're not doing what they should do, we're here to help. So please don't worry about it. Reach out. We'll do everything we can to help. The last question that I received recently, and that was about transportation. There was somebody that said, what happens if my bus doesn't come in the morning? Well, we do have transportation numbers for you to call. Actually, we followed through on that and found out that the bus actually did come. and the bus was waiting outside. So just remember to make sure for all the parents out there to double check the transportation schedule, be outside waiting a couple minutes prior to when the bus should be there in case the bus is there early. Now I have to give Al Chang huge props for all the great work that he's done for a student, helping us with rerouting and bus transportation. But I have to let everybody know this, probably just when transportation is getting, so where there are no issues, we are looking at maximizing our transportation, making sure that all the buses are following efficient routes with the most amount of students in a safe way, and making sure that we do that. I think that's really critical. So again, just double check transportation schedule. And if there's any issues, please reach out to First Student. You can talk to Al Chang, and that's CHANG, another actually proud Princeton grad. And so we'd be glad to help in any way. I know Al's done a wonderful job. Tricia, do we have anything else before I laud praises on all of the attendees as well as the great staff who put together this program?
Just checking messages as well. No messages, and all of the questions have been answered. And Mrs. Strout will make sure that we get back to you. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, thank you everybody for attending tonight. Certainly appreciate that. To the staff, I can't thank you enough for helping pull everything together. And it's much bigger than just the people who presented today. There's staff behind them that are helping. There are all the building principals, of course, all the assistant principals, grade level principals, coordinators, and the list goes on and on. Our support staff, administrative assistants who we couldn't live without. That is for sure. In all the buildings, central office, Nancy Bortle, Tanisha LaFleur, Janet Lanzarato, Mary Slaughter, and literally the list goes on and on. So certainly thank everybody one more time, and have a great night. And of course, as always, go Vikes.